Hey folks, welcome back. This is Joel, and we'll continue with our discussion on Firepower. We've done quite a bunch of videos on Firepower, right? So probably this might be one of the last, or maybe I'll take a break from Firepower and do something else after this. But that being said, we'll be talking about Remote Access VPN in this one, right? You can go back and check my playlist on the channel, right? So I have a playlist over here, and you'll see a lot of cool stuff like we have done right from setting up the Firepower to high availability, QoS, NAT, access policies, and site-to-site VPN, right? So do check them out if you haven't, and we'll get started with the Remote Access VPN in this video, right? So the idea here is to set up a remote access between my VPN or the PC over here, the VPN PC, and my HA1, right, the FTD one, so that once I set up the VPN, the idea is to basically go and access my internal resources like my DMZ or my servers, right? So with that, let's get started, I guess. I mean, I think we should be good, right? So let's jump on to my FMC, because we'll be doing it on FMC, right? The first thing is, let's probably grab, let's go down to the objects, right? And maybe go to object management, because we'll have to create a bunch of objects which will be used while we finally go and put all the things together in the VPN configuration, right? Right, cool. So let's start with the first one. So first thing is, when you set up some VPN, right, you need, you can either use PSK, right, pre-shared key, or you can use for authentication, for the IKE authentication, right, you can either use PSK or you can use certificates. So we are going to use certificates. And in fact, we are going to go do self certificates inside, right? Instead of setting up a CA server, we are basically going to use self certificates, right? So for that, we'll have to go down to PKI here, right? Extend this PKI section, and here you will find certificate enrollment. There you go, right? So go down to that and say add a new certificate enrollment, right? The name is going to be FTD dash self maybe sign, right? Self-sign cert. I think that makes sense. Yeah, that looks good. The CA information, just skip it. So we'll actually change this to self-sign certificate over here, right? Then we'll go to the certificate parameters, and here we can give a custom FQDN, and we'll give the FQDN which we are using on this one. I think it is FTD dash ha1.lab.local, if I'm not wrong, right? That's what we're going to go with. Let's use the same thing for our common name as well, right? So let's go and put that here. Organization unit, it could be like name of your company. In my case, I'm going to say lab. Organization could be anything. I'm going to say simply Cisco, right? The country can be India, US. Let's say US in this one. I'm going to save, right? All right, so let's wait for that. There you go, the self-sign certificate is done. Meanwhile, what else do we do? So let's go down to, let's keep this object management window open here. Instead, we'll go to devices, probably on a new tab, right? Because there are a lot of other objects which we have to configure, and we'll do them as and when needed, right? So by keeping that window open over there. Cool, so now we have created the self-sign certificate, right? But we have to add that self-sign certificate to our device, right? So we'll have to go down to devices here and click on this certificate. Let's click on add certificate, right? And here let's select FAHA1, right? Here we'll select certificate enrollment, and let's select the self-sign certificate here. Let's say add. Right, it'll take a minute or so. Let me pause the video and come back once it is done. All right, so we've done. You can see the self-sign certificate has been added. Let's go back to our object management again, and the next thing is we have to add a radius server, right? Because when someone is logging in using their VPN, I mean, when you're trying to log into a VPN, you really need to authenticate that user, right? So the VPN user credentials have to be authenticated, and for that we'll have to use external radius server. So we'll have to search for radius here. There you go. So you have radius server here, let's click on add new server, I believe, yeah. And here let's go and select 192.168.20.24, right? So that's my ICE. I believe that is my ICE. Let's double check here. 20.24. Yes, that's my ICE. So sorry, I think that's the name. I think I made a mistake. Let's remove that. Let's just say ICE over here, and it's going to be a single mode retry. All of this we can keep. So here we'll have to add that particular guy, right? So here we'll have to add the IP address. So 192.168.20.24. Let's keep all the ports and all same. The key I have configured the ICE with the Cisco 123. So let's use the same thing here. Did I do that right? Let me try that again. I think it should be good. So the rest of the stuff, let's keep it as is. Let's not touch. Yeah, so that's good. So let's save. All right. So 192.168.20.24, and that's good. So let's save this one. Okay. So we have added the ICE, right? And let's just double check though. 192.168.20. Okay, that looks good. So cool. So we've added the ICE. What else? Let's add the AnyConnect file. Remember, we really need AnyConnect so that people can download it and use it, right? So these are all the normal steps which you would otherwise configure as well, even if you're doing a VPN with ASA or something like that, right? So we are basically doing almost the similar steps here. So if you're very good with configuring VPN with ASA, this is like cakewalk. So AnyConnect file, we'll have to upload the AnyConnect file so that it will be available for the user to download and they can connect to it. So let's say add AnyConnect profile, right? We'll say AnyConnect, and I don't know what version I have on my local laptop. Let's just check. I think I have 4.6. So let's say AnyConnect 46, right? And let's browse to that. Downloads, and there you go. I believe that should do it. Right, so let's open, right? And the file type is AnyConnect image, right? So give me 1 sec. All right, so I'm not very sure if the zip file is accepted, but let's give it a try. Otherwise I might have to download the PKG from somewhere. So okay, let's browse it again. Let's go to downloads. Okay, sorry. Yeah, it looks like it wants a PKG file. Let me try to download that. Give me a second. All right, so I've got the .pkg file here. So now probably it should work. So let's grab that one, right? Looks good. So I'm gonna say save. Just make sure you get the AnyConnect package before starting the lab. You could probably use an older version as well. It should work, like 4.5. That should work as well. All right, so there you go. That's done. So we've imported that. The next is we'll have to define the pools, right? What are the pools? Pools are basically needed because when a remote access client is connecting in, you'll have to give some IP address, right? So let's go here. So address pools, IPv4. Let's add a pool, right? I'm gonna call it as SSL VPN pool, but you can you can obviously use it for IPsec VPN as well, right? It's just a small knob which you have to check when you are configuring the VPN, which I will show you. Generally, I think people kind of prefer SSL VPN a little more because of the you don't have much hassle about opening some certain ports, right? So that's why. But yeah, if your organization wants IPsec, then go ahead and that is supported as well in FTD, so you can use it. So we'll use a pool here, and the pool is basically 55.1 to 55.254, right? That's my pool. My subnet is obviously going to be 255. Let's use a /24, right? Looks good. Let's save that. All right, the pool is done. I think we are all set now, so we can go to the remote access. We have done this part, so we can go down to devices, and there you go, VPN and remote access. Click on that. Add a new configuration. Right, so here we'll start with the first part, which is so there are a bunch of steps here. You see there are 5 steps. You have to go through all the 5 steps. So we'll say FTD remote access VPN. So this is what I was telling, right? I can keep both of them checked on, or I can use only one. In my case, I'll just use SSL but you can obviously use both. That way, you can select between your SSL or IPsec VPN, right? So I'll use SSL in my case, and I'm gonna put this on HA1. That's done with the first section. Let's go to the next section. So here you will basically be asked for the profile name, right? Very similar to how your ASAU configure. So I'm gonna go with like corporate, maybe SSL VPN, right? So that is done, and then we will have to configure the ICE. So remember, we configured that ICE object earlier. We'll have to select that guy here. Yeah, there you go. ICE is here. That is the authentication server. What is the authorization? Yes, same. Even the accounting server is going to be the same, right? All those AAA commands, basically that's getting configured now when you select that. The pool, remember we selected a pool. You can either go with V4, V6. We will go with V4 because we selected that, or we configured that earlier. So that's done. Let's keep the rest over here. We can go to the next. So here, this is the place where we select the AnyConnect file, right, which we uploaded earlier. So we are going to select that guy. There's only one, but you can probably upload multiple of them and select depending on your use case, right? If you have multiple VPNs, probably for your Mac and Windows and all of that, you can select here, right? Sweet. So that's done, and let's go to the next. Access. So access and certificate. So where do we want the VPN to come from, right? So it's obviously the outside interface, because we are basically remote access VPN. You generally configure on the outside interface because you really want people from outside to connect to you, right? So that's why it's zone outside. And the certificate, remember, we have used the self-signed certificate, right? I mean, technically in an actual environment, you will not be using self-signed. You will be using a CA authority, and you'll be signing both the remote access client and the FTD with the with the particular CA authority, and there'll be a proper PKI and all of that, right? Because it's just a lab, we can just get away with self-sign. We will basically end up getting like a small warning when we connect to the VPN, but that should be good. What else? So access control for VPN traffic. So bypass access control policy that's not needed for us. Do we have some NAT exempt? Because I wanted to show you that. I don't think you can see here. Probably, yeah. So there's a mention of NAT exemption here. So either you can do NAT exemption. That's again another NAT policy. Basically nothing, but it's remember we did. Let me actually show you that. Right. Give me a second. So let me just probably save this. I think this is done, so we can just finish this, and let me just talk about the NAT as well once, right? So that's good, I guess. Yeah, I think that looks good. So what we'll do now is, let me just quickly spend a minute to talk about NAT. So let's go to the NAT. We already have some policies. I think we do. Let's click on this one. Right, so those are our policies, right, which we kind of configured in the NAT video. But what's the whole idea about NAT and VPN, right? The thing is, if you already have some NAT rules configured in your network, like in my case, right, I do have NAT rules, remember, because we had configured this in the NAT video. But just to recollect, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to create a VPN from the VPN PC to the DMZ network and the server network, right? So literally we are basically making the firewall pass the traffic between its DMZ interfaces, the server interfaces, and the outside interface. Now on these interfaces, can you see some NAT? We don't see them, right? So we are safe, right? There is nothing, which is going from outside to either DMZ, right? There is nothing from outside to DMZ, or there is nothing from outside to servers. So as a result, we are kind of safe. We really don't need to configure NAT exemption or basically identity NAT. But if you had already configured some kind of a NAT rules for the VPN, which would include the VPN traffic, then you would have to configure identity NAT, right? So identity NAT is nothing but basically telling your firewall not to NAT it, not to NAT that particular traffic, right? And I believe we did configure identity NAT. I'm not sure if I've deleted it. Did I? Let me just check. Yeah. So this is actually identity NAT. I remember now. The third one is basically identity NAT. You can see here the traffic is basically going. The source is basically the inside, right? So traffic is going from inside. It's basically originating from the jump host, right? Destination is the ISP router, and you can see the translated sources and the translated destination is very same as what is the actual or the original source and destination, right? Which means, so this is kind of like why are we putting this, or why are we creating this identity NAT? It's really not doing anything, right? It's literally telling the firewall not to NAT it. So this is how it works. The NAT rules basically executed top to down. So because this rule is there here, what we are trying to do is we are basically making sure that no other NAT rule gets activated, right? So we are creating a NAT rule for really not doing NAT. That's like a very contrasting statement about identity NAT, but yeah, that's what is happening. Now, like I said, in my case, I don't really need to configure identity NAT for our subnets, at least, because we don't have any existing NAT rules which are for the outside network, right? From outside to DMZ or outside to servers, right? We really don't have anything, so I don't have to configure. But as a best practice, I would actually do that, because in future, if someone configures a NAT rule probably somewhere in a auto NAT or something, then my identity NAT would get activated and it would prevent the VPN traffic from getting NATed, right? So in my case, I'm not going to do it, but that's just a pointer for you guys if you want to do that in future. All right, so I think we are good. So we have saved it. I think let's go and deploy this one. And once it is deployed, so while it is deploying, probably let me just quickly show you what I've done on ICE, right? Though ICE is not part of this kind of video, but I just want to give you a quick glimpse so that if you are working on a similar lab, then it becomes easier for you guys as well. Okay, let's see what that error is. All right, guys, so we might have a little bit of bad luck here. The FTD which I was working on, I had thought I had enabled the licenses on this one, but looks like I have not. So basically, for your remote access VPN, you can't really use just the eval license. You would need the special, the AnyConnect license, and you need the appropriate licenses, right, to enable the feature. So that being said, but still, let's just complete the discussion here, right? So I've showed you all the configuration which you need to do. The only step remaining is you got to deploy it. So if you have the right licenses, if you have your smart account with the right licenses, then that should work. That being said, let me also quickly show you my ICE, right? Because that's important as well. So if you are spinning up this lab on your own, and you would really want to have the whole picture, right? So let me also show you that. Yeah, looks like it. So looks like my license is not working down here. All right, that's fine. So yeah, so on this one, what I've done is nothing much, I would say. Let's go down to administration, network devices. So I've added one device, which is my FTD, right? FTD HA1, right? Let me click on that. So I've added the device, I've added the IP address, right, 254 it is, I believe, yeah, and I've enabled radius, right, I've added that shared secret which I configured on the other side, and yeah, that's it. So that's mainly the network devices. Then the other thing which I've done is probably identities, right. Under identities, I've created a user called Cisco, right, with the username Cisco, password is I think Cisco123, and I've added it to a group called, IKV2 group, and I've created a separate group, right, called IKV2 over here. I think it's under user identity, and there you go, right. So that being said, then the policy, the last part is the policy. Where is policy, right? So give me 1 second. Yeah, so let's go to the policy. So here under policy sets, you would basically, I'm using the default policy set. If I click on this, it's basically going to show you the authentication, the default policy set, and the authentication. Also, I'm keeping everything default because it will hit this rule, which is the default rule. When it hits this, it's going to go for the authorization. And for authorization, I've created one authorization policy called IKV2, and you can see what I've done here. When it is matching the identity group, which is IKV2, right, which means when the user puts in the correct username password, and when the user puts in the correct username password, that's when the authentication passes, right, and only then the authorization comes into play. So I'm doing a double check here just to check that that particular user belongs to IKV2 and the radius NAS IP, right. I'm checking if the request is coming from my FTD. So if that is happening, I'm just permitting the access, right, as simple as that. So that's my configuration on the ICE side, right. So that's mainly it, guys. I mean, the only thing remaining was to deploy this FTD here and to go down to my branch PC and to plug in the IP address, which is 192.0.2.1, right. This is the FTD's outside IP address. I was supposed to connect here, and then it'll ask me for a username password, which is basically Cisco and Cisco123, because that's the one configured on our ICE. So once the radius succeeds, right, we'll basically be getting SSL VPN, which means we'll be able to, open a terminal window or command window and do a ping, to one of the DMZ servers, or maybe to the other servers, right. Basically, we'll be able to do a ping from here to the DMZ, one of the DMZ host, or to the servers over here, right. So that's what I was intending to do, but looks like I've not enabled the licenses, right. Cool, that's fine. Hope you got the gist of it, and yeah, thanks for watching, guys. That was Remote Access VPN.